I want to give a special shout out to all my patrons. First, thank you so much to my Bibliosprend, Bibliohowler, Bibliomancer, and my new Bibliomancer, Donna. It means a lot to me that you give me your extra support for my hobby. Hi everyone, Peter here. Welcome to SFF Spotlight episode 28. And just like always, if you are new to this series of videos, this is a series of videos where I talk about new cover reveals, new special edition, new book news, and also new noteworthy release in the adult science fiction and fantasy genre. Similar to all previous SFF Spotlight episodes, we have more than 20 topics to talk about, and there are plenty of big news today. And I will start with probably one of the biggest news actually, but it is also to a very criminally underrated fantasy series. Though I haven't read this one, but I heard so many amazing things about this from those who have read this. So this one is the announcement for the 11th and final book in Wars of Light and Shadow series by Janny Wurts. This is a final book in her magnum opus series. So this one has been more than 30 years in the making. The first book, Curse of the Mistwraith, was published in the year 1993, and now Song of the Mysteries, the 11th and final book of the series, will be published next year in May 2024. But Janny Wurts has also mentioned that this is like 50 years in the making, because the idea behind Curse of the Mistwraith was originally planted in her mind 20 years before its publication. So this is a big deal. I have mentioned many times that Wars of Light and Shadow is one of my priority series this year, and I kept on postponing starting the first book. But with this announcement, I don't think there is any more postponing it. I will start reading Curse of the Mistwraith either next month or at the latest July. The pre-order link for this one isn't out yet. You can start pre-ordering Song of the Mysteries in September 2023. The cover reveal isn't out yet, but I just want to say congratulations to Janny Wurts for succeeding at completing your series. This is a truly incredible lifetime achievement. And moving on to the next news, this is about two awards, Nebula Awards and also the British Book Award. The result for both of these are out now, and guess what? Babel by R.F. Kuang won the Best Book of the Year in the category of fiction for both awards. I think that is truly impressive. In my review for Babel by R.F. Kuang, I mentioned that Babel is my favorite book by her so far. And yeah, it's amazing how far she has come since the release of Poppy War. And I do not see any sign of R.F. Kuang stopping anytime soon with her incredible achievements in writing. And the next news is to talk about the power of social media. So sometimes social media can be insanely powerful in boosting a popularity of a book or sales of a book. And I'm talking about if you're active on Twitter, you might have known about this news, but I'm talking about Bigolas Dickolas Wolfwood. I highly recommend to check out all the articles about this, but to make long stories short, Bigolas Dickolas is a die-hard fan of the manga and anime Trigun, and recently they tweeted about how much they love This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal and Motar and also Max Gladstone. And because of their incredible passion in the book, This Is How You Lose the Time War gained another boost in popularity and sales pretty much everywhere, but specifically on Amazon, I think. But there are a lot of news covering this, but I think it is so interesting. It just goes to show just how powerful one or two tweets can be. I know there is a lot of circumstances to this one. It's not that simple, because This Is How You Lose the Time War was already relatively popular. It has won plenty of awards, and this passionate tweet just reboosts the sales of the book. But yeah, I think it is absolutely impressive. And speaking of social media, the next news is about a new Bookish application and also today's sponsor. And who knows, this might eventually become a potential challenger to Goodreads in the future. I'm talking about Commonplace. Commonplace simplifies the process of saving your treasured reading moments. With just your phone's camera and a few clicks, you can now capture reading excerpts and add personal annotations effortlessly. As a reviewer, this will make highlighting passages organized and easier for me when I'm reading and reviewing from a physical book. You can also follow your friends to see their quotes and annotations, give them likes, and discuss the same passage together in the comments section. The discussion posts are modeled after Reddit, and it allows for a wide range of conversation topics. Commonplace takes your quotes and creates a digital library of your favorite reading moments, so you can look back at your reading highlights for discussions with friends or schoolwork. Finally, I love using Goodreads for reviews, but I cannot deny its group and discussion features are so limited. I have created the Library of Patrick Book Club to experiment around, and you can create your own group or see your favorite reading moments and connect with other fantasy and science fiction readers as well. The application is still relatively new, but it has great potential, and there will be more features to come. If you want to be one of the first members of Commonplace, you can check out the link in the description down below. Currently, it's only available for Apple, but eventually it will be available to Android as well. Thank you to Commonplace for sponsoring today's video. And before we move on to the next section of talking about Kickstarter campaign and special editions, I want to mention two more things. First, this is about a manga that I really love. Is Jujutsu Kaisen by Gege Akutami. It is possible that this manga will be ending this year, and I think it's exciting. I've been reading the manga chapter by chapter weekly, and I'm currently waiting for the season 2 adaptation. So excited for the season 2 adaptation. Personally speaking, I think the anime is much better than the manga because I love the artwork and the animation much more than the artwork on the manga. But yeah, for those of you who are fan of Jujutsu Kaisen, I know there are plenty of you. This is quite an exciting news, especially with all the chaos that is going on in the manga right now. And moving on to the next topic, Good Omens Season 2 has been confirmed that it will be released on July 28. I really enjoyed the TV show adaptation of Good Omens. The first season, I really enjoyed that one. It was quite a surprise. I did not expect I would enjoy Good Omens because I haven't clicked that well with anything that I've read from Terry Pratchett, although I've read only, I think, one book. It was Mort, but I ended up DNFing that book. I will still give Terry Pratchett's book a try, for sure. Either from Guards or maybe Small Gods. But yeah, I'm so looking forward to watching Season 2 of The Good Omens. So that's it for the topic of book, manga, and TV show adaptation news. Now it's time to talk about new special editions, and of course, I will start from the Kickstarter project first. First, this is an announcement from Brandon Sanderson that the leatherbound edition of Words of Radiance, the second book in the Stormlight Archive, will be delayed. The Kickstarter campaign will be delayed to spring 2024. So before the delay of the Kickstarter campaign for Words of Radiance leatherbound edition, it has always been in the plan for the leatherbound edition of Words of Radiance to be dispatched sometimes around fall 2024. So there will be supposedly no change in that, but the Kickstarter campaign will be delayed to spring 2024. Personally, I think this is kind of good news because my money can take a bit of a breather with so many special editions and Kickstarters popping up. And also, this is good because Sanderson can focus on delivering, Sanderson and Dragonsteel can focus on delivering all the Secret Project novels first. But speaking of Dragonsteel Leatherbound Edition, the next special edition I'm going to talk about, the next Kickstarter campaign I'm going to mention today is something I'm super excited about. And if you follow me on Twitter or maybe on Instagram, you might have seen me post about this one once or two times, but I'm talking about Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer is the first book in the Rivenworld series. This was originally a standalone novel, and now it has been confirmed there will be a leatherbound edition that is quite similar to Sanderson's Dragonsteel edition in design. I think the mock-up looks luxurious, and I think the final form of this book will look absolutely gorgeous. There will be new custom interior design, colored maps will be printed on the end papers, interior illustrations by Sutiwat Dechakampu, which is the original cover artist of Dragon Mage, will also be included inside the book. There will be plenty of interior illustrations. Look at my boys, Aram and Marcus, they look so damn good here. And the beautiful original cover art of Dragon Mage will also be printed inside the book in full color. The leatherbound edition will be produced with premium paper, Smithson binding, hub spine, gilded page edges, and more. So yeah, if you have been following my channel since the first time I started my YouTube channel, you might have known me from my review on Dragon Mage, probably, or maybe on Goodreads. But yeah, I'm very excited about this. Hopefully M.L. Spencer can produce a beautiful leatherbound edition of Dragon Mage. And the Kickstarter campaign isn't ready yet, but although the Kickstarter campaign hasn't begun yet, it will start in the month of June. But you can check out the Kickstarter page now. So yeah, I will leave the link in the description down below. And speaking of another Kickstarter campaign that hasn't begun yet, and it will be launching in the month of June, and this is for Daniel Green's new novel. The Kickstarter campaign for Neon Ghost, A Wit's Sin will begin in 27th of June 2023, so next month. And the cover art is done by Zara Alfonso. It looks beautiful, and plus the design by Shawn definitely enhance the overall package of the book. The design and the cover art looks really slick, and I am looking forward to owning the physical copy of this one. But Daniel Green was kind enough to send me an advanced reading copy of Neon Ghost, and hopefully I can get around to it before the release date of this book. We still have 2 more Kickstarter campaigns to talk about, and the next one is just a reminder that Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater, the Kickstarter campaign, is still going on right now. Small Miracles is the winner of SPFBO 8. And I think this book should be suitable to those of you who love cozy fantasy or good omens that I just mentioned earlier by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. I haven't read this book yet, but this is the first time a cozy fantasy actually win an SPFBO competition, and I think that is impressive. I look forward to reading this someday. And the last Kickstarter campaign I'm going to be talking about today is for Child of the Night Guild by Andy Peloquin. The Kickstarter campaign is fully funded already, but there are still plenty of stretch goals to meet. So the book will features a new cover art by Antti Hakosari. It will be bound in faux leather. It will have a Smithsoon binding, new interior design, 5 to 10 custom character illustrations, and 2 full spread cityscape illustrations, and many more. Andy Peloquin is mostly well known for his work on the Darkblade series, and the story in Child of the Night Guild or the Queen of Thieves series do take place in the same world as the Darkblade series. I think the new cover art is a huge upgrade over the previous cover art. Not gonna lie, the previous cover art looks really bad in my opinion, and the new cover art by Antti Hakosari looks absolutely beautiful, and there are just so much movement and action in this cover art. I love it. So that's it for the topic of Kickstarter campaign. Time to talk about special editions, and for today's episode, I only have announcement from the Broken Binding and Folio Society. Let's start with the one from Folio Society first. So Folio Society has announced their summer collection, and if you are a fan of Stephen King, there is now a Pet Sematary Folio Society edition, and also the Folio Society edition of Tehanu by Ursula Guin is now available in their summer collection. I do not think I will be purchasing the Folio Society edition of Urtzi because I already own an omnibus hardcover of Urtzi, and I think that one looks beautiful already with the cover art and also interior artworks by Charles Vess. So yeah, I will be reading Urtzi Saga for the first time from that omnibus edition instead. But yeah, just letting you know that this is available now on Folio Society. Now let's talk about all the books released and announced by the Broken Binding. First, this is just a reminder that Sons of Darkness by Gourav Mohanty, the first book in the Rag of Ruta series, is now available to buy. The special edition, the Broken Binding edition, is now available to purchase. So Sons of Darkness was my favorite debut of last year, and I think if you are a fan of grimdark fantasy, you are a fan of Mahabharata, you should take a look at this one. I have a feeling that this special edition will be so gorgeous, and it will be fitting to how good the book was. And speaking of another book that I highly enjoyed, this is the Broken Binding edition of The Lost War by Justin Lee Anderson has been announced. And on that note, this book, the traditionally published edition of The Lost War, is now out, and you should check it out. It was one of the finest self-published fantasy book that I have ever read, and The Lost War by Justin Anderson, the first book in Aidin Saga, comes with one of the most insane revelations I have ever witnessed in a fantasy novel. It was so well done. You should definitely take a look at this one. It is incredible, and the book is out now. I've been waiting for the sequel for so long. Yeah, ever since the self-published edition that I read, I've been waiting for the sequel to Aidin Saga, The Bitter Crown, and I look forward to reading it as soon as I can. I think I will have to do a reread of The Lost War first though before that, because yeah, as I said, it has been a while. And another special edition to a self-published fantasy book that is now traditionally published. This is the Broken Binding edition of The Combat Codes by Alexander Darwin, the first book in the Combat Codes saga. This is a jujutsu and mixed martial art dystopian sci-fi novel, and I've read this one. I think this is a great debut novel. Highly recommended to those of you who enjoyed reading Red Rising. There are plenty of things inside this book that reminded me of Red Rising. Not in a completely similar way, just some things. So yeah, I think this one will be quite a bit of a hit, especially if you love Jujutsu and also mixed martial arts. I think the author Alexander Darwin implemented it so well into his book, and also this is the Broken Binding edition of it. Finally, the last special edition of today's episode will be for the Broken Binding edition subscription of the month of July until September 2023. This is for Chronicles of the Wolf Queen by K.S. Veloso. The first book is The Wolf of Orenyaro, the second book is The Ikesar Falcon, and then the third and final book is The Dragon of Jin Sayang. I've read only the first book, The Wolf of Orenyaro. I have a bit of a mixed feeling about it, but I heard the second and the third book improved significantly over the first book. I look forward to reading this one. This will be the special edition for the month of July until September 2023. Now let's move on to talk about new cover reveals announced in the past 2 weeks. Let's start from this one, announced by Raidmark yesterday. This is for a book, Wraithstorm by SM Boyce. This is the third novel, the third installment in the Wraithblade saga. I really love the cover art direction for this series. Just take a look at this one. This cover art is done by Mansik Young and with the design by Shawn and just take a look at how fitting they are and how matching they are to the previous 2 books. I really love the design and also the cover art. I haven't started reading this series though. Honestly, I'm so behind on reading Raidmark Creative books. I think the only series that I've read published by Raidmark Creative so far is Mother of Learning by Nobody 103. I'm still in the middle of reading that series right now. I need to catch up to reading Raidmark Creative list of published books. So unlike usual, there is no Kickstarter announcement, there is no special edition announcement from Raidmark Creative in today's SFF Spotlight episode. But there are new reveals on the new interior artworks for their copies, their special edition of Sufficiently Advanced Magic by Andrew Rowe. I think these artworks by Daniel Kamarudin looks absolutely beautiful and I cannot wait to receive my copy of Sufficiently Advanced Magic Deluxe Edition. I think it is still possible for all of you to get it if you go to the Kickstarter page. And the next cover reveal will be for those of you who are a fan of the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. Yes, this is the final cover art to The Hexologist by Josiah Bancroft. This is his newest book. I do not think this one takes place in the same world as the Books of Babel, but who knows, I could be mistaken about this. But the cover art and the cover design is once again done by Ian Leno, the same cover artist and the same cover designer behind the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. I will still give this book a try despite my huge disappointment over The Fall of Babel, but I really enjoyed reading the first 3 books in the Books of Babel. Hopefully this one will overall be a better series compared to the Books of Babel. And moving on to the next one, this is a new cover art to Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. Alloy of Law is the first book in the second era of Mistborn or Mistborn Wax and Wane, and I think this new cover art by Matt Taylor looks so much better compared to the previous cover art by Chris McGrath. No offense here, I mean, I am a fan of Chris McGrath's cover art, but the one that he did for Mistborn, especially Mistborn Era 2, just it wasn't too good in my opinion. I think there are many cover art better than the one that is done for the US edition of Mistborn Era 2, and I am glad that Mistborn Era 2 is getting a new cover art by Matt Taylor. This one looks so beautiful. And speaking of beautiful cover art, I think this next cover art with an artwork done by Tristan as well will appeal to many of you. This is for Starter Villain by John Scalzi. I have no idea what this book is about, but that cover art immediately got my attention. So to those of you who are a cat lover, I think this one might be for you. And the last 2 cover reveals to talk about today will be for a self-published fantasy book. And the next one is for the 9th volume in the Thousand Lee series by Tao Wong. This is the 3rd cut. Once again, the cover art is done by Miguel Coimbra, and I still have to get around to reading this one. This is a progression fantasy and wuxia or xianxia that should appeal to those of you who love Cradle by Will White. I don't know whether that's actually the case or not. I haven't read this series yet, but I heard from many people who love Cradle that they really enjoyed reading the Thousand Lee series as well. So yeah, that's truly something to consider. I think the entire Thousand Lee series will be 12 books long, so there are 3 books left before the conclusion of this series. And finally, the last cover reveal in today's video will be for War Song by Michael Michel. This is the prequel novella to The Price of Power. The Price of Power is Michael Michel's debut novel. It is a grimdark, character-driven fantasy novel. I am not sure whether all the reviews are correct on this or not, but plenty of them have mentioned if you love The First Law World by Joe Abercrombie, there is a good chance you will end up loving The Price of Power by Michael Michel. And I was about to post this SFF Spotlight video earlier, but then suddenly my friend Philip Chase, just revealed the cover art to his second book, The Prophet of Eden. So here it is. I think the cover art is done by the same cover artist and the cover designer of the first book, and I really enjoyed The Way of Eden. This one is really fitting, and I love how matching the design and everything in the cover art to the first book. I hope that The Prophet of Eden will be even better than The Way of Eden. I look forward to reading this one. So that's it for the topic of cover reveals. Now finally, for the last section of SFF Spotlight, it's time to talk about new noteworthy release, and I have 3 books to talk about today. The first one is for The Return of the Night by Gregory Kontasis. This is a Greek-inspired epic fantasy novel. It was originally published in Greek and it has been professionally translated into English. I did the cover reveal to the English edition of The Return of the Night, and I haven't read this one, but I look forward to reading it. No idea when, but I hope to get around to this someday. And the same situation also goes to the next book, The Last Echo of the Lord Bells by Joan Byrne. This is the 7th and final book in the Mage Aaron series. I have always wanted to read this series for so long now. Ever since I found out about this series, I have always wanted to read this one, but because I heard this would be 7 books long, I might as well wait for the conclusion, and now it has been concluded. Once I'm done with Cradle, I think this will be the next progression of fantasy series I tackle. But yeah, congratulations to Joan Byrne for completing a Mage Aaron series, and I heard nothing but great things about this one. Some readers have mentioned that this is actually even better than Cradle, so yeah, that really pumps me up. And finally, the last noteworthy release and the last topic of today's video will be for the book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. This is the first book in the Library trilogy. As far as I know, this trilogy doesn't take place in the same world as all of Mark Lawrence's previous books and series. I haven't read this one yet. I wanted to get to this one this month, but it seems like that's not possible with how busy I am this month, unfortunately. So I will get around to this someday. I was going to wait for the physical copy of the book That Wouldn't Burn to ship to my place, but it seems like if you follow me on Twitter, this book has turned into the book that wouldn't ship for me. First, I pre-ordered from Book Depository, it was cancelled, and then I pre-ordered from Blackwell's. It was cancelled again. It really seems like the universe doesn't want me to read the physical copy of the book That Wouldn't Burn. But no worries, I will still try to read this one someday. But yeah, the book That Wouldn't Burn, the first book in the Library trilogy by Mark Lawrence, is out now. So yeah, that's it. That's all 25 topics of SFF Spotlight episode 28. As always, do let me know what you think about today's episode. Let me know which news I mentioned in today's episode excites you the most. As always, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.